Hello, everyone. I should be live now. I'm just going to wait a few minutes as usual for people who may want to watch the stream to hop on, and then I'll get started. Um, yeah, hey everyone. I'm just looking at the chat here. Um, I have an exciting stream for you today. It should be good. Yeah, I decided to do it at 8 o'clock on a Saturday because I know you have a lot of viewers in Asia as well as Australia and other locations where it's easier to watch this time. So I decided to do it now. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to alternate between doing streams at 3 p.m. on Sundays and streams at 8 p.m. on Saturdays. Because I do two streams a month. And so I'll just alternate. And then if you are in a time zone where it's easier to watch me at that time, so I think Europe, it should be easier for the 3 p.m. on Sundays, and then in Asia, Australia, etc., it should be easier at 8 p.m. on Saturdays. So typically, for those who may be new to the stream, I have a few news items, discussion things I want to talk about, and then I often reply to a lot of messages, questions, comments in the live chat. I also which can get congested, so I try my best to read everything in the live chat. Nonetheless, I see lots of Australians in the chat. One thing that I do like to point out is this is a good time if you have behind-the-scenes questions or questions about what we may be doing in the future and the like, to ask those sort of questions, other types of questions that I may not discuss in a regular video. This is a good time to ask that, albeit I won't answer anything and everything. I will try my best for things I can discuss on stream. So it's 8:02. I'm going to wait again a couple more minutes, and then I'll get started on our main topics for today's stream. Again, just because I try to allow people to get onto the stream. Though this week I didn't screw it up. I got things working properly, so that is good to see. As usual, what I will tell you is that I have the link to the next stream, which I just made, didn't screw up, in the description for this stream, so you can go set a reminder, and the next stream I do, you'll be able to access that one easily. Also, I think it's worth pointing out that I also have a form link in there, so I'm going to present some things that people have sent me. So if you want to send me something and have me open it on stream, you can do it via the form that I've linked below, or you can reach out on Discord and organize something, or you can email me, I suppose, and organize something. The form is probably easiest, but email and Discord works. I definitely recommend everyone join the Discord. It's a great place to chat about transit with people from all over the world. It's really exciting. It's super packed and busy. We have a lot of channels, so you can talk about basically anything. If you like making fantasy maps, there's a channel for that. If you like talking about rolling stock from around the world, there's a channel for that. There's a channel for basically anything, and so it's a great place to go and chat. Of course, I recommend you follow me on Twitter as well as Instagram, where I post various stuff. I tweet more than I post on Instagram, but I sometimes post pictures, so that's worth checking out. And of course, I have a Patreon, so if you're interested in early access content, calls we do monthly with all the patrons, but even more behind the scenes and private Discord channels and stuff, then consider supporting on Patreon, as well as our Metro map, which is getting updated right now. So I think that is enough time, and I'm going to just take a look at the chat, and then I'm going to get into the first thing I wanted to talk about. I don't have a ton of news items this week, but I'll see what I can do. I guess there is the regional rail report, so maybe I can talk a bit about that. So I'm just looking through messages here before I start. First stream, someone's caught. That's cool to hear. The TTC map in the background, including the one and the ones on the wall, are all from the TTC shop. Opinion on Sydney Metro. I feel like I covered in my demystified video. Maybe I can talk about it a bit more later. I may have brought this up. You should do... Regarding this, using single level but wider trains for GO RER, this is something that was discussed in the regional rail report by the Toronto Regional Board of Trade, so it's definitely something that I think is interesting and a potentially good idea. The only thing you have to consider with that is that you do potentially limit, well, it becomes bespoke, right? It only is going to work in Toronto, since other cities in North America have not taken that approach. It is a good approach for a lot of reasons, but that is a limitation you have to consider. Someone watches my channel almost every day. Well, I do release a video almost every day these days, which is crazy, and it takes a lot of work, so I'm happy to hear that. Anyways, I am going to give this person mod, since they are a mod on the Discord server, and I'm going to talk about the first item I wanted to mention. Now, this is maybe not the most mind-blowing thing, but I think it's interesting, and it is the Bellechasse bus depot. Now, nothing really that substantial has happened with the Bellechasse bus depot, and if you don't know what it is, maybe look it up. I'm sure someone can post a link in the chat. What it is an underground bus depot in Montreal, or at least semi-underground. They're basically excavating the ground, and then most of it is constructed underground, kind of like a parking garage with a park on the kind of roof or at ground level. It's a really interesting project. It has been fully excavated now, and I think it's just it's an interesting thing to talk about, but I do think it is a little crazy, and I find that Montreal's obsession with burying things is a little unique. Like everything, like new depots they've buried, they're burying this bus depot. I'm not sure it's necessarily the best approach. Recently, a new bus depot opened in Toronto called the McNichol Bus Garage. We call them garages here. And it is not buried under the ground. It's got a green roof and stuff, which is nice, but let me take a look. Someone has posted a link. I'm just going to open it and take a look at that. But yeah, this bus garage that has been posted as a link, so you can kind of see what it looks like. It's interesting. But yeah, I think it's a fascinating question. Is it necessary to put transit facilities like that underground? I don't think so. Even metro lines that are heavily underground, like the suburban rail loop in Melbourne, for example, or some of the lines in Singapore, the actual depots tend to be above ground because they take up so much space. And so the idea of having it underground is questionable, probably, but it is cool and it offers some cool opportunities. So I think it's quite interesting. Now let's see. I'm gonna look at a few chat messages and then I'll go on to another topic. Do you collect bus schedules and maps? I do to an extent, but I think transit cards are the thing I'm always most interested in, because I do have quite the transit card collection, which maybe I can show on stream if people are interested. I think I have shown it before, but some people may have not seen it, so maybe I can show it again. What would be the best corridor for a 7th TTC subway line? I think Jane, probably. Jane has been widely discussed, but I think that would be likely a western extension of the Ontario line. At least I think that's kind of the logical thing to do. If you have a subway line or metro line, right, and it extends into the downtown core, then it makes more sense. It just makes sense to continue extending it west, right? Because like with the RER projects I talk about so often on the channel, when you have a rail line crossing a city, having it extend in both ways, or having two disparate rail lines connected through the center of the city with kind of a central tunnel makes sense, because your capacity is maximized when you can through operate, right? Because turning trains is not super efficient, which is why the RER in Paris has like 1 million branches, because that allows them to turn trains at various locations, right? Which allows that crazy center city frequency. Now, you can do really high frequencies on just double track lines, but with giant trains, it becomes difficult. So I think Jane on the west with the Ontario line makes sense. Extend Kitchener GO to New Hamburg? I don't think so. I think there's a few places where extending service makes sense on GO, but I don't think a ton of GO extensions make sense. Just replace the new RER trains with underground BRT. Well, that is a suggestion, all right. Hi, Reece from Aussie Weaver Way. Hi, great channel. Always love to see it. Let me look. Can you break down the differences between TBOT, Metrolinx, and TTC, etc.? Yes, I think I can. So the Toronto Board of Trade has nothing to do with the government, right? It is a board of trade. It's just an organization that exists between businesses, to essentially, I don't coordinate policy and stuff. So if the businesses of Toronto really want new transit built, then the Board of Trade can push for more transit, right? And that makes sense because if you're a giant business that has a lot of offices, you want people to be able to get to those offices, you would want transit. In the same way, they might push for improved port facilities if Toronto was more of a port city, so that businesses could do business more easily. So the Board of Trade is kind of an organization to represent business, and I think that's interesting. Now, Metrolinx and the 10 seconds here. We're having a bit of a stream issue, I think. I'm going to have to try something. Metrolinx is the regional transit agency, if that makes sense. So Toronto is a city in the GTHA, the Greater Toronto Hamilton area, which has numerous cities. And if you're from Australia, which I figure many of the viewers on this stream may be, then this concept might be a little confusing because the cities don't really exist in the same way in Australia. The Greater Toronto and Hamilton area consists of like 30, 40 maybe cities, like municipalities, which are, individual units that combine together. They have their own borders and stuff, which aren't necessarily that well defined. At least, like, you wouldn't know besides having a sign that, hey, you're entering this other town. But Metrolinx has jurisdiction over kind of a lot of southern Ontario and the entire GTHA area, basically everywhere where GO Transit trains serve. So Metrolinx is regional. But they're kind of slowly taking over more municipal, i.e. city-level planning and stuff, because so in a lot of senses, you could say Metrolinx is quite like a lot of the Australian kind of agencies like Public Transit Victoria. That's Victoria-wide, I believe, but Metrolinx is greater than just the city of Toronto. Now, the TTC is the Toronto level transit agency who physically goes and operates the buses and subway trains in Toronto. The green GO trains, those are operated by Metrolinx. That's under Metrolinx jurisdiction. The TTC with their red and white streetcars and their subway trains and their buses is operated by the city of Toronto. Now, all of the cities in the Toronto region have their own bus and in the TTC's case, streetcar and subway systems. There are some regions as well. For example, York region, which I've covered, their Viva BRT system, which are multiple cities that have come together to form a region, or it might be the case that Ontario forced them into a region. I believe that's the case. Essentially, though, multiple cities that are together and have a single transit agency which covers multiple cities. You have other regions like Peel region, where Brampton and Mississauga are located, that are one region but have separate transit agencies. Essentially, it's very confusing. Fares are not cross-honored generally between the TTC and everything else, which means that transferring between the TTC and everything else is not very easy. And so suffice to say, that's why the Toronto Regional Board of Trade created their fare report, because the businesses of the Toronto region thought, hey, it would be great if people from different areas in the Toronto region could transfer more easily because that would help our workers. And so that was a really long and drawn out answer, but I hope that makes sense. Toronto Regional Board of Trade, not a governmental agency, represents businesses and corporations in the Toronto region and their interests. Metrolinx represents the region broadly and does regional stuff, albeit they are getting into subway planning in Toronto, which doesn't necessarily not make sense because the subway has regional level impacts. The TTC is the operator of transit within the city of Toronto. Okay, that was a lot of talking. Let's continue along. I might need to... okay, that's all good, I think. Someone answered this well underneath me. Do people treat the path with the same reverence as réseau? So these, if you don't know what those two systems are, the path and réseau are underground pathway networks in Toronto and Montreal. The path is significantly larger than réseau, and it's better connected with the subway network, and so I would say the path is much more substantial. Do you think GO will ever have level boarding in the future? Will they get rid of CSAs? Yeah, I would say I think you need only look at a system like Sydney's system, right? And which is actually a system I think isn't perfect, but it's a system that I think would look really awesome in Toronto. I think we will have level boarding someday. When that day is, I couldn't tell you. Getting rid of the CSA is definitely when you have level boarding that's possible, right? And even before you have level boarding, it could be possible because you can have automatically deployed ramps, right? Actually, now that I think about it, there's no like right now there's no reason that the CSA needs to exist. They make announcements, which is sensible, and they deploy the ramp. Um, so I think the CSAs may eventually go away. They don't really exist in that form in many rail systems. The driver makes announcements. The ramps would automatically deploy. Having the CSA there now probably makes sense because to be fair too, Go operates gigantic trains, right? They're 12 cars, 300 meters. They can have thousands of people on them. So it makes sense when you're not operating a ton of trains. As you operate more trains, I think it starts to make less sense to pay 2 people for every train. But yeah, that's my thinking. Opinion on Newmarket Mayor asking for a subway extension to Newmarket. Did I say Newmarket? Newmarket. Anyways, I don't think that's actually what they asked for. I think they asked for a kind of like improved bus connection, which I think is reasonable. Viva York Region Transit is pretty bad transit service-wise. They have nice bus lanes, though. Okay. So there's a lot of questions here. I'm gonna talk about some other stuff for a while, and then I'll try to come back and. Okay. There's a lot of stuff here. I'm gonna try to move very quickly through. I'll try to get to the bottom of the chat, and then I'm gonna talk about some other stuff. But rail cars last a long time. How do the designs compare? They don't. They're really dated. Metrolinx has a PDF for level boarding standards. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. But the question, because we have, there's lots of interesting stuff going on, I think, with level boarding and Metrolinx and what they're planning, what they're not planning. I'm not really entirely sure, but they do have a document that it talks about how it might work. What type of rail service should Detroit have? Probably none, as someone else said. Probably just great bus service would be enough for Detroit. What do you think of Amtrak's new map? Nice map. Can you actually do it? I think maps are great, but Amtrak needs a lot of things, and I'm going to make a video on it, but in some, better trains, better service, better stations, better interconnection with other forms of transit, more service. Basically, everything needs to be better about Amtrak. There's not really, I would say, a single thing that Amtrak is a master of in the way that many other transit agencies are. I think that, Amtrak should probably be pushing for electrification on busy routes like in Southern California between LA and San Diego. Maybe in the Pacific Northwest, they should be pushing for electrification and far more frequent services. Amtrak should be using more modern rolling stock on far more of its routes. You might note that I think it's the Viewliners, the recent CAF trains, they're super dated looking. So Amtrak has a lot of work to do, but the map looks nice. So hopefully this means we're moving forward. But $80 billion, which I think is what is promised for intercity rail, is not going to go very far. So I'm a little disappointed about that. Transverse or longitudinal seating depends on the train. There's not a simple better, worse answer. Does the Finch West LRT replace part of the 36? I believe it does. I could be wrong. Will Kitchener get a commuter rail network? I don't know about that, Alfie. In January 2020, Caroline Mulroney said there will be GO service extended to London. Have you heard this? I believe you are implying something that isn't necessarily entirely accurate. I think it has been discussed. I don't think it's been said that GO would definitely be extended. I think it's kind of something that is being considered. Just looking at something, it does appear it will be replacing the 36. So yes. Waterloo Region is expected to top 1 million people in 30 years. What should be accomplished in transit? Well, I think Waterloo is one of those places that probably will never. The road network makes it difficult to do light metro, and the backbone is already built as Ion. So I think a Calgary style LRT for for Waterloo makes sense. And it should be noted that kind of Calgary level LRT service is more widely spaced than I think what we're seeing. And if you look at the Toronto case, right, I think the ideal light rail network wouldn't be what we're building, where the stops are so tightly spaced, and you would run a parallel bus. And I think that makes sense because the bus is the local service. The LRT, if we must have an LRT, should be the kind of mid-tier service, and then a subway would be the top level service, right? But we're building LRT to replace already pretty good buses. Albeit if they had lanes, they would be better. You pose through running for Penn Station. Is it really ideal? Yes, it's ideal. Like how people ask questions like they're some sort of news reporter. It is funny. Also, can you turn the gain up on your mic? I can move it a little closer to me. I don't know if that's going to help. Hopefully it does. Thoughts on a GTA level regional government like Metro Vancouver? Not a bad idea, right? Like Australian councils, yes, along those lines. After the extension to Arbutus on the Millennium Line, will they start planning an extension towards UBC? They're already planning that extension. It just hasn't moved along yet. How does funding REM work for CDPQ in terms of project financing? How do they get their money back for pensions? So the government, I believe, pays them for passengers moved, essentially, right? But then the case also has property holdings, right? So there's a lot of transit-oriented development potential as well. It's not exactly like TFL. No, it's very different because it is a pension fund. Yes. Actually, as someone points out, there is a great explanation of how it works in the Montreal channel on the Discord, so I do recommend checking that out. If Toronto Board of Trade is non-governmental, would Metrolinx just ignore their report? Well, they can, yes, definitely, but major businesses are certainly a major stakeholder, right? So it would be like ignoring citizens, right? They have a stake, and so you should probably listen to what they're saying to some extent. Curious about your thoughts regarding the elevated sections of REM East in Montreal. A lot of people are very concerned that it could be bad for business and create a division in the neighborhood. I think it's sketchy how they're trying to push it through, regardless of residents think. Yeah, I agree that some of the process probably could be better. That being said, again, I'm generally pro-transit, and so I think that like a lot of the impacts are less. It's less important to exhaustively do environmental assessments and that sort of thing when you're talking about transit, which overall has an exceedingly positive impact. I also think the idea that you can't have elevated rail in the core of a city is a little silly. Lots of cities have it, and lots of cities do it well. And like major cities like Tokyo and Paris and Hong Kong do elevated rail in very dense areas, and it's great. So I think there's a lot of fear-mongering going on. Vancouver obviously has a SkyTrain through lots of dense areas, and it's lovely. So I suggest looking around the Vancouver SkyTrain network. I think it will be fine. Where is the water, Reece? No water today, unfortunately. Do you think the TTC should pursue upgrading Line 1, 2, and 4 to GOA Level 4? I would definitely say so, yeah. Technical term for those ramps is a bridge plate, I believe. You are correct. Though actually, I don't know if they call the ramps the CSAs use a bridge plate. A bridge plate would be what would be an automated deployment. I'm automated. So some of the thing, I'm amazed about the concept of non-level boarding. Every station in the UK has level boarding. No, not exactly. The UK actually does not have level boarding very extensively at all. It's quite bad for level boarding. Level boarding, like true level boarding, does not just mean that the height of the train is roughly in line with the platform. What you would see on a brand new metro is what I think people are talking about when they say level boarding. There was a very small gap. There was no significant height difference between the platform and the train floor, and there's a very small horizontal gap. So you can easily wheel a wheelchair in and out, basically. That is true proper level boarding. And in many places in the UK, you have to do a big step. And the same is actually true in many places in Australia. So, platform screen door. Okay, so, oof. A lot of messages. Okay, I'm just going to quickly scroll through. Union Station West could be an interesting idea. It seems to have been dropped. I'm going to have to fly through these. Do you think Go will ever return to 12-car trains? Surely they will for some busy commuter rail services. Someone is also mentioning that the UK has very little level boarding. Finch West is... Okay, we're talking about Finch West. Metrolinx has removed cross-platform boarding at the Ontario line for East Harbour Station. Any comments? Yeah, that's not as good as if there was cross-platform boarding, but what I think it's important for people to recognize is this sort of... It's still better than the downtown relief line option, right? Where you had this really deep underground connection. Let me see. ASMR. Ha ha ha. I hope people enjoyed the April Fool's video. I'm sorry I used the wrong term. UK has like high platforms. Should the GO train extend to Buffalo? Well, that's a funny question to ask. Yeah, I see someone is if anyone has a picture of a really good like lack of level platform, they should post it in the chat. That's what I'll say. When Line 3 shuts down, do you think Line 4 should be renamed Line 3? No, I think Ontario Line is going to be named Line 3, and that makes a lot of sense. I highly suggest Gareth Dennis's video on the topic. I'm not sure what topic we're referring to. Do you think rail companies like SEPTA and NJ Transit can electrify some of their old networks? They should, but I wouldn't call them rail companies, right? They're transit agencies. It's very different. Highly doubt Go making it to America. Yes, I highly doubt it as well. Do you think New York should have one centralized train system, especially with commuter and subway systems? Probably. I think New South Wales is a really good model for that, especially with their wayfinding and stuff. Australia level boarding gang. The air gap between your door and the floor is slightly bigger than it should be. Okay, so I've gone through the whole chat, which is wild. That was very, very tiring. And then the messages start rolling in. So what I want to do now is show you some stuff that people have sent me. And as I mentioned before, you can send me stuff via the link in the video description as well as via a direct message on Discord. So I wanted to show this because someone here in the chat got this to me. This is the vertical green Presto card. So my Presto collection slowly marches forward. If you have an Up Express Presto card, I will pay a price. I will pay a bounty for it. I guess that's the thing people do on live streams. They say, like, I will pay a bounty for something. If you have an Up Express Presto card, I will pay you money for it. But yeah, this is my vertical green Presto card now, courtesy of one of our Discord moderators and also a moderator in this live chat. So yeah, very exciting stuff. Oh, someone's now asking how much. I think I'm willing to go into the low triple digits for an Up Express Presto card. Let's say that. Maybe I'm going to be overwhelmed with offers for Up Express Presto cards, but I'm not sure. I also want to show you this, which is quite cool. So one of my viewers from New Zealand, Ryan Nichols, who may be watching the stream, I hope you're watching, Ryan, was very nice and sent me quite the beautiful package. If people from various other cities, I don't know, if you're from a city in Europe or if you're from a city in Asia, if you could be as incredible as Ryan has been and sent me something like this, well, I would be overjoyed. So what Ryan has done is Ryan has packaged up for me in the lovely New Zealand mail packaging an Auckland Transit hop card, which is lovely, as well as a nice note that I'm not going to read on stream because I generally don't do that. As well as a ton of like maps and pamphlets, which are wonderful. So we've got the North Shore and I don't want to try to pronounce. Is it hibiscus? I probably sound like an idiot now. Central Auckland, the public transit guide. West Auckland, the public transit guide. And I think these guides are I don't really want to unfold them, but they contain a large map and a timetable, I believe. I'm not great. My dexterity is not great. If I unfold it, I will not be able to refold it on the stream. South Auckland, the NX1 via the Northern Busway, which is pretty cool. I think the busway has been quite successful in Auckland, actually. So that's a very cool project. Maybe inspired a bit by Ottawa, actually. Manukau to Britomart, the Eastern train timetable. Oh, so this is really cool. These are the specific train timetables. So this, you have the Southern train timetable. We have the Western train timetable. And we have the Central train timetable. And we have a hop card brochure. So if anyone wants to send me something as lovely from their city, or just any transit cards, I would be happy to receive them and open them up on stream and give you a shout out. Thank you again, Ryan, for these. So yeah, it's really cool, and it's a cool way. I get a cool transit card. Yeah. So the third thing to talk about today is the book I recently have made a lot of progress reading. I haven't finished it yet because it's an encyclopedia, and there's sections where there's acronyms. And there'll be like AT, and there'll be like 10 acronyms. But this is the Ellis, I believe it's Ellis, right? Ellis British Railway Engineering Encyclopedia. It is incredibly dense, and it's just beautiful. I really recommend this book. We have an RM Transit book club on the Discord server, which you should go check out and post your transit-related books you've enjoyed. But yeah, no, it's like really fantastic. You can learn a lot from this book. You learn a lot about international railways. They do mention a lot of international like operators and stuff. They talk about like, I'm just gonna flip to a random page and talk about a few definitions, but they talk about different signaling technology, electrification technology. So if you really want, excellent knowledge in the railway space, I recommend reading it. Anyways, let's just read. Reece is gonna read one of these. So we have this one, the EFRTC, the European Federation of Railway Trackwork Contractors. We have EGF, Emergency Ground Frame. We have the EDS, which is the Early Deployment Scheme, the trial installation of European Rail Traffic Management System on the Cambrian lines. We have eddy current testing, eddy current brake. We have various things. There's some pictures as well. It's a great book. I recommend picking it up. I got this one used on Amazon. It was in kind of rough shape, but I think it was worthwhile. Okay, so we've got more questions. So I want to go through a bunch of these. Okay. So someone had the card and they lost it. Very sad. Low triple digits. Yes, low triple digits Canadian dollars. I'm willing to pay for the Presto card. I probably would do less if it's in bad condition and more if it's in good condition, of course, right? Do you know what OS the TTC Presto card reader runs on? I think someone mentioned that already. Kiwis are lovely. Yep. If I can get another one, I'll send one over. Yeah, getting another one might be difficult. Have you looked into the debacle of the Dutch Fira? I'm not sure. I may have. If you want to send me goodies, someone's asking. There's a form in the video description. Though I'll be honest, direct messaging me on Discord is probably easier. And we can sort it out via that. Paris Navigo and Montreal Opus are technically compatible. Cards can be read by the card readers in both cities. Actually, most fare cards are intercompatible. A lot of them use the technology, the MyFare technology. Presto does, for example. The difference is that just because they are compatible in terms of how the cards are read does not mean that they basically speak the... So here's how, as a computer scientist, I would describe that intercompatibility, right? It would be like saying that the cards use the same set of letters, right? So it would be like French and English, but just because you can understand the letters, the 26 letters of the alphabet, does not mean that you can speak French, right? So that's how the fare cards essentially could be said to work. How long will I be streaming for? Usually an hour to an hour and a half, but who knows? If there's a ton of questions and people on the stream longer. If there's less, then less. Okay, I'm just going through. Get an Amazon affiliate account so you can post affiliate links to books like that. It's definitely something I guess I could consider, but I actually think I had an Amazon affiliate account before, and it was like there's very few times I used it, and you have to use it a certain amount or it gets shut down, and so maybe, but I don't know if it may not be worth it. I've heard the reason that Bud Railcars lost. Okay, someone's asking the same question they asked before. Let me remove that. Okay. Not another one as in an Up Express, but in a white vertical original Presto operator card. Well, if you have one of those, I would absolutely love it, and I would definitely pay a bounty for that too. If I can get to, I'll send the second. I would love it. I'm honestly... Well, okay, I'm not going to finish reading that one. I think Line 4 will be extended to meet up with the the Scarborough extension. Yep. Should Line 1 be extended to Canada's Wonderland? I don't think so, but I think it would be excellent to potentially have a frequent bus shuttle from Vaughan Metropolitan Centre, which kind of already exists, I believe, as well as one to Rutherford GO Station, which I mentioned in my video about that station. I vaguely remember at some point mentioning a book of transit maps. What was that called? If you search Transit Maps book, it's by Mark Ovenden. It's like the #1 book. You'll definitely be able to tell on Amazon. But yeah, it's a really good book. A bit off topic, but I find it impressive they can balance double-decker trains on tracks half their width without tipping over. Yeah, I suppose. Right. It's really a center of gravity question, right? 4-hour stream. Can you imagine? Maybe I'll do it. If there was a lot of questions, maybe. What are your thoughts on the New York City subway R211s? They're nice. They have a lot of benefits, but they still have the kind of cold, icy feeling of the regular subway trains. So I don't love them. They feel sterile. That is the word I'm looking for. They have a lot of improvements though. I believe they have LCD screens instead of the dot matrix screens. If you haven't seen the screens in New York City subway trains, they're very interesting. They're quite unique, I would say. There's not many cities that I don't know of maybe any city that has a similar style of display, because it instead of showing all the stops, because there are like tons on many New York City subway lines, they just show you like the next 10 and then some further out, which is interesting. The R211s also have open gangway, which is an interesting thing. I believe the original order was planned to only have a few trains with open gangway, and the subsequent changes to the order have been to increase the percentage that are open gangway. So I think that's exciting. Finally, the U.S. is embracing open gangway technology. I do wish that the design was a little bit more interesting, though. The front of the train is it's just boring. It looks like a New York City subway train, and I get that it's popular, but color or introducing some interesting design is something I think would be cool. I like how the Toronto Rockets are sort of, they have the curved front, a slightly streamlined design. I think that it would be cool to see something along those lines in something along those lines in New York, right? Maybe not exactly the same, but something along those lines. Okay, let's see. What do you think about the Dublin Metrolink project? I was talking about it with someone on my Instagram. I believe it's kind of been pared down a bit, but I may make a video on it in the future. Austin's rail plans. Yeah, that's something I will be talking about in a video pretty soon. So that's all I'll say. What is your favorite TTC train model? I'm not a huge fan of the TTC's trains, which is a lot of people in Toronto seem to be, but I don't love them that much. I think they aren't the most attractive. My favorite is the Rocket, and I'm not a huge fan of the Rocket, as many people would know. So make of that what you will. Do you know the Dutch OV chip card system? What do you think of it? It's a good system. Yeah, it's cool that it's nationwide, right? I think those sort of systems are quite interesting. So yeah, that's my thinking on that. How many lines should we have in your platonic ideal of transit in Toronto? I'm not sure what you mean by that. I think we could use more subway lines, though. Do you think there's any chance for Metrolinx to add stations on the Niagara Fall line? If you mean, well, Lakeshore West, yes, definitely. I think that is the plan. There's the Confederation station. I think it might be postponed, but there are going to be more stations, and it makes sense to have them, especially when you think that Hamilton could be its own little destination, right? Some people may be commuting from Niagara Falls to Hamilton, so that would be useful. Albeit, it's not as useful if the trains stop at West Harbor. How do you get to central Hamilton from there, right? So we have to think about that. Let me scroll back up. I wonder whether extending the RT over Eglinton would have been feasible. Definitely would have been. I should end it at that. I think it should be a subway as planned back in the 20th century. Would Calgary-Edmonton be a good candidate for high-speed rail? I think it would be a good candidate for higher-speed rail. So 125 miles per hour, probably 200 miles per hour, probably not. I.e. 200 kilometers per hour, yes. 320, no. About open gangway, the initial cars will be closed, and if it goes well, the open gangway will be coming in 2023. So I'm the Ontario Premier for the day with an unlimited budget. What is the one thing you would do that would have the biggest impact on regional rail to benefit the whole province? To benefit the whole province? If there's only one thing you could do, though you seem to be saying three, so if I can do three, electrify GO, expand the corridors, modern rolling stock. Easy. The stations are not, expanding the corridors involves level boarding at the stations, more platforms, better weather protection, then we're good. Dual mode trains for further out. I don't think those are real. Outside of Eglinton, Finch West, and extensions of existing Toronto Metro trains, what kind of new lines should be built down the line? They can complement RER. A circumferential line would be great, like a proper regional level circumferential line. Any chance for a video about the hypothetical 2035 plans? Any chance for a video? Sorry, I may have just double read that. Something happened in my brain. I don't know. Cosmic radiation hit me and I lost my train of thought. Anyways, yes, probably. Support Reece and his TTC ain't that take. I'm not sure what take you're referring to, but I'm happy to know I have your support, CDLTO, whoever you may be. Should Hamilton be a terminus of GO with the Lakeshore West extended to Brantford and Niagara split into its own line? No, because having through running makes sense. Do you think there will be a free transfers between GO and TTC in the future? I would certainly hope so. Thoughts on Rogers Centre teardown for condo redevelopment? Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that, especially because there's that empty lot south of the Rogers Centre that doesn't have any buildings on it. So really, we need to tear down the Rogers Centre when we have lots of land to develop? I don't know. I don't really think that's a good idea. Open gangway is the best invention since chocolate. You can get so many more people in the train, and you can move between carriages without going outside. Yep, I agree. Has the Queensland government got back to you on Cross River Rail? The Queensland government has got back to me, and they are slowly trying to get me materials so I can make a demystified video on that subject. Are there any cities in North America in which an orbital heavy rail service would be feasible, something like Moscow Line 14 or the Yamanote or even the Overground? So I want to be clear, the Yamanote line is a downtown like a downtown circular line. It is very unique in that sense, right? I guess you could say the Circle Line in London is sort of the same, except the Circle Line in London is small trains. The Yamanote line is 12-car giant metro-style trains. So Yamanote line is very hard. I don't think very few cities in the world could do something like that. And right, the Yamanote line was an existing rail corridor, which I don't think there's probably basically no cities that have that level of infrastructure on the surface in their city centers like Tokyo does. So Yamanote, no. And most cities would not have the infrastructure to do a circumferential line like Moscow's, unfortunately. Cities that could probably eventually think about doing it, though, New York does have some infrastructure that could be used for circumferential, albeit not a circular circumferential. But basically every city in North America could benefit from a circumferential line. Now, the next question from CDLTO is, what is your preferred solution for 905 to 905 trips like Richmond Hill to Mississauga? I love the idea of a 407 REM. Okay, that might be a bit much. That is one idea I think would be interesting. I think another interesting question is, well, a 407 REM, because I think the busway on the 407, like, why not just make it a REM? If we had the money, I think it would be cool to do that. Someone else has mentioned that here. But I really like the take I presented in my Go ALRT video, which is to convert the Shepherd line to use REM-style technology. So I guess you could use, if you can't convert it to use overhead wire, you can just use dual-mode vehicles, and then have it extend into the Highway 401 median on both sides, connect with some other transit stops, and provide that circumferential service. The benefit of the REM rolling stock being obviously the overhead wire being better performing in winter weather and being able to have faster trains, hopefully like up to 120 kilometers per hour, which I believe was the plan for Go ALRT. Do you think T1s will make it to the Line 2 extension? Yeah, I think probably. Is there any chance maglev technology can take over normal rail and be the new typical type of rail? No, because maglevs have a lot of problems. Maybe I should make a video on that. Your TTC trains take. Oh, yes. I just don't like the trains. I don't think they're that nice. If you want to ask me what metro trains I really like, I like London Underground trains. They're so much more spirited, right? They have color to them. They have a tube shape, which is, I guess, neat. They don't look like bread boxes on wheels. Yeah, so I think that's a really nice metro train. I think a lot of cities have nice metro trains, Toronto not being one of them. The Azure trains in Montreal are beautiful. The Sydney Metro trains are lovely. A lot of the Tokyo rolling stock is lovely. A lot of the rolling stock in Korea is lovely. Yeah. Do you think 2023 projected opening for Finch West LRT will happen? Yeah, I think so. It's moving along nicely. 8 trains per hour circle line that isn't a circle line versus 30 train per hour actual circle line. It's just no comparison. Was the USA Aero train a good idea with its construction but badly executed, or is any train like the Aero train to ever succeed? I think it's silly. So that's my answer. Should Saskatoon or Regina get rapid transit? Probably not. BRT system. I'm sorry. I'm also getting a comment that people like to say Go Alert. I know they like to say Go Alert, but for whatever reason, I just always say ALRT. I don't know why. I mean, it's probably best that the London Circle line isn't an actual circle. Perhaps, yes. Besides the obvious points like automation and accessibility, why do you like the REM so much? It expands transit massively in a city that hasn't seen transit expansion. It has platform screen doors, which the level of deployment of platform screen doors on the REM is first in North America, and that is really exciting because now we have an example to point to in North America when advocating for more platform screen doors. It's I think automation. Yeah, automation was mentioned. Wi-Fi on all the trains, cool feature. A lot of elevated trackage. I think it's showing that is something that people will and can accept. It's cost-wise, it's more reasonable than a lot of systems. It's converting an existing railway, which I find interesting. It's pretty high capacity, so lots of reasons I think it's a really cool line. Paris can reopen its circular line. Yeah, that's true. It is actually probably possible, albeit I don't know if the length of trains necessary would really work. When you make maps in your videos, do you simply draw the transit over top of OpenStreetMap, or do you upload KML files? I just draw it. And the reason I draw is because I feel like it gives me more ability to kind of customize things. And it's an exercise I kind of enjoy. It's therapeutic. How far away in time is region to region rail? Oh, is it a possibility? It's probably on the 30-year time horizon. I see far too few people talking about the symbiotic relationship between transit and cycling, especially in commuting settings. Any thoughts on that? Well, I was actually planning a video a long time ago called How Bikes Give Transit Superpowers or something like that. If you're interested in seeing it, maybe I can make it. Leave your comments in the chat. I'm going to take a break from answering this to talk about a subject I find interesting. The new freeway network being built in Sydney. Now, I think it is totally valid to have an opinion that is different than mine. My opinion is that more freeways are generally bad, and I think that even in the Sydney case, it's probably for the worse. Now, why do I say that, and why am I talking about highways? Well, I think there is a concerning trend. Sorry, I'm just messing with my camera. There's a concerning trend that we sort of think that there isn't necessarily always an impact of highway expansion, but there is always an impact for highway expansion. And I think when you have a good rail network that exists already in your city, then you shouldn't really be expanding your highway network. You can transport freight on rail, but you can transport basically as many passengers as you could conceivably want on rail. And I think that, highway spending, not super efficient. I think that part of the problem you have to consider is the kind of terrible death spiral that highways push you into. And I think that's the main problem. When you build highways, you encourage people to live further from the city center and often further from their places of work because the highways enable them to travel quickly to those places. The problem is that inevitably when the highway becomes congested, you need to expand the highway and build more highways to make it so that your society can still function because it is likely becoming more and more highway based. And see, this is the problem is that you have to constantly be building more infrastructure to sustain yourself. Now, it's actually true that the same effect exists for rail. The difference is that rail is way higher capacity than highways, and so you can build your rail and it's going to last you way longer than a highway is going to. And there's a lot of other benefits to rail that don't exist for highways, at least don't exist right now. So I wanted to bring that up. I think it's an important thing to talk about. I will continue through the chat. Do you think Melbourne Suburban Rail Loop is do you think Melbourne Suburban Rail Loop is needed? Yes. Melbourne has an incredibly radial rail network that needs it. Do you think okay, I am reading the same message again. I'm a little tired. I'm going to be talking more about Melbourne for reasons in coming weeks. Why do people use the term REM instead of the mode type? I think because REM really represents in a lot of people's minds a beautiful implementation of automated light metro that is very special. And so I think that's why I like to refer to it. I think it evokes the best features of automated light metro, and so that's why I like to refer to it. Should the TTC invest in a faster rolling stock? That is a good question. Should they? I don't think so. The reason is because stop spacing is so tight, and even in some of the new extensions, I just don't know if it would be justified to invest in a faster type of rolling stock. You have to also note that it's hard to go that fast with third rail, right? Like it has a limitation. So I think that we're probably fine with the existing rolling stock. The subway is quite fast. Most of the same vendors who make the card in the Netherlands made Presto. It was the same company, actually. Accenture did both. With an electrified GO system, we can now enclose each station. Do you think this will attract customers? Well, you can actually enclose stations with a diesel-powered system as well, to be fair. And also, I don't think you need to enclose stations. You just need to cover the platforms so that if it's raining, people don't get just totally drenched. Let's go up here. A lot of messages. Well, okay, I'm going to try to fly through a bunch of these. Your trains in New York should be a mix of the new Tokyo trains and Thameslink Desiro 700s. I think those are more regional trains, so that's what I would say. Back to the Aerotrain, what do you exactly find silly? I don't know. Isn't the Aerotrain where the jet was like on top of the train? I just think that that's silly. Especially if you need to operate in a tunnel or something, right? How is that going to work? Someone has commented Glasgow Transit. I'm not sure what the implication there is. Back and first thing is, wow, 73 people watching. Yes, quite a few people on this stream. Very exciting. Throw your questions at me. I answer them all. I should also remind you, if you are in the stream and you weren't earlier, which is a large proportion of the people who are on the stream, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, join the Discord because we have lots of good chats, lots of cool mods to chat with too, who are in the stream, and consider supporting us on Patreon for a cool metro stop on our metro map. We really appreciate everyone who watches our videos and our patrons. We really, really appreciate you. Given the high number of tracks through the central corridors, do you think it would be feasible to dedicate some automated operation like the REM 2 to 4 tracks in the west and convert tracks in the western corridor? I think it's very hard, right? Because of the way Go operates as a network, and it appears that will continue to be the plan. I think that it's unlikely we see that. Albeit, I have a lot of belief that REM is a better system than Go will be getting. I talked about it in a presentation I gave at the TransitCon conference, and if people are interested in seeing it, maybe I'll present it on my Discord sometime in the future again. Do you think the Glasgow subway should get an expansion? Yeah, I think it could use an expansion, albeit with proper subway trains that aren't so tiny, maybe? What do you think of low-floor LRT having platform screen doors? I think it's a very interesting idea, but the ones in Austin... So, I'll tell you a story. I was talking with the folks in Austin, and and good people and all. But when I asked about the platform screen doors, I said, are those confirmed? Are you guys going to really put platform screen doors in? They said, what are platform screen doors? And I said, well, the gates on the platform. And they said, oh yes, the trains will have doors that you can press a button to open. And I said, no, the platform screen doors, the doors on the platform. You know how an elevator, you can't just punch the outside of the elevator car. And they said, oh yes, the train's doors will automatically close. And I said, no, the platform screen doors, the doors on the edge of the platform, are you going to have those? I had to send them pictures and diagrams and schematics. And eventually we came to the conclusion that they didn't understand what a platform screen door was, but they might have them. But I think they just put them in for artistic purposes. So shed a tear for that. I've noticed many transit advocates automatically dismiss any proposals for monorails. I've never quite understood it. For most urban transit applications, monorails probably don't make sense over conventional rail, but it could make sense for a dense, narrow urban corridor where the whole line must be elevated, assuming it can be done for cheaper than conventional technology. Yeah, no, definitely. I think there's places where monorails do make sense, and I think that is a failing of the transit community to understand the nuance of transit. Tokyo monorail. That's what I recommend people go look at. The Tokyo monorail operates in tunnels, or I guess it's more accurately called the Haneda monorail. Operates in tunnels. Operates express services, which you go, what? Express services? Operates express services using 2 tracks. Operates frequent services, like every couple minutes. And it travels over water for part of its kind of alignment. It's a very interesting system. Monorails can be cool if you do them right. What do you think of Glasgow's mini RERD ScotRail lines? I actually haven't looked into it too much, and I probably should. Phil Verster, who is the CEO of Metrolinx, previously ran the ScotRail, what is it called? Oh my goodness, concession for Abellio. So it's an interesting little tidbit. I love the aesthetic of DC's subway. I agree. It is a great aesthetic. As a critic of many LRT systems, do you think there are any cities that currently don't have LRT that should get some built? Well, I think every city could use some LRT, actually. Maybe I should make a video about that. But it's about putting in the right place, which I think I've talked about. If Paris opens its Circle Line, the Tim Traveler video will go out of date. That is correct. Monorails got totally memed by the Simpsons episode. Yeah, they still live in that one down. We went on-demand busing in Whitby. Great, but it killed bike bus connection completely. Sad. Yeah, that is sad. I doubt Paris will reopen the Circle Line. They're currently building a tram parallel to it. Yes, but it is very slow. You know Tim Traveler too. I think everyone may know Tim Traveler here. It's a shame the 1938 tube stock. I'm just trying to type something. It's a shame 1938 tube stock on the Isle of Wight has come to an end. It hasn't. I don't think it's fully come to an end, right? They've only got one train so far. Should we demolish highways and use this space for things like regional rail and commuter rail? Good idea. I like it. Highways can be cheap, but you have to remove all freight traffic because that is what causes wear and tear. Do you agree? Well, remove some of it. You can't remove all of it. Austin is getting LRT soonish, but I agree with your suggestions. I think the Melbourne SRL should be a metro. It appears it will be. Bunch of transit-related YouTubers that I do appreciate. Oh my goodness, so many messages. Oh my god. Okay. Okay, will the REM fare be integrated with STM? Yes, it will. When the T1s eventually get retired and are replaced, what kind of new features would you expect? What features would I expect? I would like to see doors that are glass, full glass, like not full glass doors, but similar to Calgary's LRT where the glass is like full height. LCD screens everywhere. I love my LCD screens. Longitudinal seating. More accessibility features, a nicer design generally. Should Subway start replacing third rail with overhead wires? You can't necessarily because you usually don't have room for overhead wires. They're better in new build, but it's not easy to change in existing systems. So, we leave it as is. Your comment on the Aerotrain is not making me think the Aerotrain is good. Will you ever try the Glasgow subway, aka the Clockwork Orange? Definitely. When I can get there, hopefully I can ride it. But coronavirus. There was quite a bit of arguing on Twitter about the Toronto Regional Board of Trade report. Seemed to be spurred by Steve Munro's critique of the plan. What are your thoughts about that whole debate? The Toronto transit community can be really toxic sometimes, unfortunately. There is a weird tendency in the transit community broadly to attack other transit advocates who have different plans than you. I don't like that. I don't like childish attacks. I don't like... I think it's unfortunate. There are... I think in the critique, which certainly had some valid points in it, it was basically ruined and the valid points thrown out by the fact that they disrespected the authors who are people. Oh my god, my hair is crazy. That's terrible. Who are people that I respect and who are people that have, they have sufficient credentials to be saying the things they're saying. And I think that saying that they're playing with crayons or whatever, if someone says something like that, I think people should realize the impact that has. When I get YouTube comments that are rude, which I do get, it's very easy to dismiss them, right? Because it's like, oh, this person they're not even thinking about how I feel or what I might think, and they're just assuming the worst of me. The same is true when you make these critiques that are just full of attacks on the people, ad hominem attacks. I think that it serves to discredit the person who's writing the critique. And it's interesting because, if you're a logical person and you actually care about the critique you're making, you do your best to be very soft with the critique because you know that if you make it too confrontational or rude, then the other person might think oh, this person's just being a jerk to me. I'm not going to listen to their critique, right? And it's why I try to be very gentle, usually. And why I qualify things a lot. So just being rude and generally dismissive of other people, not good. Being exclusionary is not good. I have a lot of respect for Steve Munro for the advocacy work he did back in the day, but I think that including my own interactions, he can be quite he can be less than nice to people, and I think that is too bad, because a lot of people like transit and a lot of people might look up to him, but if you treat people that way, then what happens, right? And it sucks. So that's what I would say. Sad. What's the future of Via Rail? Hopefully better stuff than we have now. High frequency rail, nicer rolling stock. I guess that's the future at the moment. High speed rail would be really cool though. What are your thoughts on Eglinton East? What would you build in your ideal world? Similar to the West Extension? I believe that Toronto, pretty much anywhere in the suburbs, could do with a light metro. I actually think there's no reason we shouldn't build Eglinton East as a light metro, actually, because it feeds into Line 2, which is a grade-separated metro, and I think that feeding Line 2 with more traffic via Eglinton East being a light metro would be fine. Just the number of stops on Eglinton East, you have to look at it and say, not everyone wants to go downtown, but a lot of people want to go to Kennedy, and a lot of people do want to go downtown. And the Eglinton East plan, like, I can't imagine how painfully slow it will be. There are so many stops. It jogs left and right all over the place. It's going to be painful, and it feels like such a waste of money to build that. Truly, I think it is kind of the worst of our LRT obsession in Toronto is the Eglinton East plan. The streets are wide in Scarborough. We should just build light metro. It probably does not even cost that much more. But we, and even the light rail we build is not that great. Anyways, I'm gonna lose my mind if I have to talk about light rail more. So I'm going to continue down the chat. Should cities replace their bus systems with light rail? If they're at the absolute maximum capacity and they don't need the speed of a metro, because it is truly just local traffic that is just massively maxed out, then yes. As a child, I wanted the NYC subway to be like the Tokyo monorail. I'm not sure what that is supposed to mean, but I like the Tokyo Haneda monorail. Now people, this Project N person is saying Bloor Danforth monorail, which is wild. I can't believe, I can't believe this person would propose such a thing. Victoria might also, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Oh wow. Okay, I just jumped way down. Let me check what this. Someone sent a picture. Yeah, the Tokyo monorail rolling stock is weird. I'm scrolling down. New York City needs to overhaul almost all of its stations. Yes, I agree. 1 hour in and chat speeds up. Yes, because more people are here, which is really exciting. Okay, let's see. Blue, gold, green, Crenshaw, and Expo lines to automated light metro. What areas of the LA metropolitan region could use a European-style tramway? Very few, because it's such a low-density area, right? And a tramway typically travels slowly, so it works best in high-density areas where you can cover a lot of ground, so to speak, quickly. My nose is itchy. What can I say? What do you think about California high-speed rail? It's got a lot of problems, but it's an important project. Are you wary of LRTs because of systems like Houston's? Lots of crashes, slow, accurate, not very useful. It doesn't help. Would you consider Denver's Flatiron Flyer to be actual rapid transit? I think Denver's Flatiron Flyer is great, and it is an example of what a great BRT system could look like on a highway. It would actually be a great thing to follow up my buses on a highways video with talk of the Flatiron Flyer. I think that would be really interesting. I'm trying to 10 seconds. I'm trying to let me see if I can fix this. Okay, let me continue. Someone says, "What's up, bro? How was your day today?" Well, I like to keep it casual, but I'm just RM Transit to you, I think. My day today. What did I do? I woke up. I edited a video. I ate some food. I watched a couple YouTube videos. I edited a video more. I just filmed a video, and now I'm chatting with you. It's been a busy day. I also read I did my articles. Every week I read a ton of industry news and check it off my calendar. So I did that today, and I also worked on the Patreon Metro map today. My favorite Toronto Regional Board of Trade report comment was someone thinking it was a totally parallel system to Go with its own tracks and whatever. That is a great comment, and I cannot believe that someone thought that. Interesting you bring up Houston's LRT. Its ridership per mile is actually quite decent compared to several newish and comparable LRTs. That may be because it's sort of picking up a lot of traffic that would have otherwise gone to other LRTs. What do you think of Charlotte, North Carolina's light rail and streetcar and their future expansions? I think it's another case where a city that could have used the light metro built a light rail, and it's just kind of another light rail system, just not that interesting, right? It's one of those cities where, nothing against you if you're from Charlotte, right? It's a nice growing city, economically prosperous, but it's just not that interesting, right? It's kind of just a bland light rail system, and there's nothing too impressive that's being done. There's some interesting work, I think, with the use of the same LRVs between the streetcar and the light rail, but overall, it's just not that exciting of a system to me. But build a bigger network and it will become more interesting. Like, I don't love Portland's Max light rail. I think it would be, again, better as a light metro, but I still think it's very interesting because it's a large network, and for that, I think it's quite cool. I've often thought that Ontario's desire to change old train lines into bike and walking paths is short-sighted. Won't we wish to bring those back as regional rail lines in the future? Sure. Yeah, I agree. I love Steve Monroe. Never heard he wasn't nice before. He can be, Steve is a very knowledgeable guy, but he is not always the nicest. If you have varying opinions on stuff, and he's not always the nicest in his articles to transit agencies or his tweets and stuff. And a lot of people aren't nice on Twitter, but that's my experience. You may have a different experience. What is light metro? It's SkyTrain, basically. Let me scroll up here. Okay. It's very annoying when I get to the bottom of the chat. It instantly loads a ton more messages, and I have to scroll back up. Trolleybus or streetcar? I can't talk about trolleybus. It's too sensitive a topic. Total flame war after I created my trolleybus video for no reason, which is very upsetting. Also, would you agree with the route and bus changes after the McNichol division opened? Yeah, I would say so. I think Edmonton should extend their metro line into St. Albert. That is the plan. Sorry about the LRT questions. You're very knowledgeable in transit, and I want to know your opinion. No, that's totally fine. It's totally fine. I'm just being a little hyperbolic. Can you please cover Atlantic Canada as well once? Yes, I know I haven't covered Atlantic Canada, and I do feel kind of bad about it, but they're bus-only systems, right? So I'm less interested. Rail is cool. But yeah, maybe I should talk about Halifax's BRT plans. I think I'll do that. I'll try. York Boulevard and Highland Park might be a good candidate. I'm not sure what you're specifically referring to. What are your thoughts on combating opposition? LA just had a BRT meeting that devolved into near chaos. I think you gotta hit him with the facts. Nose is always itchy during the stream. Nerves, I think. I'm not super nervous. I think I've become quite comfortable in front of the camera after filming literally 320 YouTube videos now. Yeah, there's a lot. What is your opinion on Amtrak's release map? I already talked about this earlier in the stream, so I'd recommend going back and watching that. Downtown LA might be good for a tram system. Yep, that's true. It's fair. Do you have any views on Winnipeg Transit? I like the new transit bus line. I just wish light rail was considered. Yeah, I would say roughly the same opinion. 10 seconds. Do you have any views on Winnipeg? Okay, sorry. To take a break from transit-related questions, how was your day? I already talked about this, but I am happy to do non-transit-related questions. My city is planning to build a new tram system. The old buses were filled to the brim, but it doesn't seem like they want to address the city's main transit problems. That's not great, but if the buses are full, trams might actually make sense. Albeit, you should also have bus lanes and articulated buses first. So, actually, there is a small window where trams make more sense than light metro because you can do a lot with buses if you do articulated and dedicated lanes. Happy Easter, Reece. Note, my name is not spelled that way, but thank you for saying happy Easter. Do you think Buffalo's subway LRT thing has any future extension potential? I have not thought much about Buffalo's subway LRT thing. Probably has extension potential, but I don't think Buffalo is the fastest growing city, so it may not be that in demand. What can we do to make infrastructure less costly? Design it, be smart with our design, and don't try to minimize the number of people involved in the project, I would say. Sorry guys, I'm down for the count. 2:10 a.m. Well, I am impressed you last this long, Nick, and so there's your personal shout out. Thank you. Whew. Okay, lots of stuff. Thoughts on the Gatineau tram? I'm also getting a question, why can't we have Siemens Velaros on the Bloor-Danforth line? Not sure if that's a real question. It doesn't have catenary. Loading gauge is wrong. I don't even know. The cars might be too long for the Bloor-Danforth line. The Velaros aren't built for subway-style operation. They only have, like 2 doors per car? It's not going to work on a subway. Ridiculous. What are you talking about? Should subways or light metros have level crossings? You should really avoid it at all costs, and I don't think you need to not avoid it. Have you ever watched Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Of course I have. It's a great movie. It's a film. You think New York City should bring back the BQX light rail proposal? Probably not. Let's do a heavy rail circumferential line. Do you think Andy Byford will return to the MTA? I don't think so, guys. Why is trolleybus so toxic? I don't know. Reece, have you ever done a video on the Santo Domingo Metro? I have not, but it's an interesting system. Do you think the Finch West LRT should have some underground stations or not? I recently found out Albuquerque has a BRT line. Any thoughts? I haven't seen it. Yeah. April Fool's video was fun, but what's your real opinion on traditional long-distance non-high-speed trains in Canada? I think maybe the best solution, and someone else suggested this to me recently, is to have a very fast intermodal train just tow it in. You could literally just get rid of the locos on the Canadian, for example, and just literally have the passenger cars connected to the end of an intermodal, and it would go faster. Shout out to the person who suggested this idea. You know who you are. Do you possibly see the O'Bry sub going to Metrolinx? I hope so. I think that'd be a good idea. Honestly, I think Halifax deserves either commuter rail or light rail. Remember, cities don't deserve stuff. They need to justify it. What team do you like more, the Canucks or the Maple Leafs? I'm not a hockey fan. I'm not much of a sports watcher. I'm into music. I like music. For branches on commuter and regional rails, is it better to have frequencies or physically divide and split trains? Dividing and splitting trains is not something you really see happening on commuter and regional rail networks for good reason. Imagine, what happens if your 2 parts of your train arrive at different times? So you're going to hold up one half of the train for the other half? Come on. What do you think of the Manchester trams? If you're referring to Metrolink, I think it's a cool system, albeit it seems quite capacity constrained, and you know how I feel about light rail. What's a good way to straddle the cost versus efficiency conversation with transit construction? LA usually has many concessions and compromises to even get transit built. I think it's a question of we can build more transit for the same dollars, right? And I think conservative people could probably get behind that. What is your thought on Laval, Quebec, Canada? 13th in Canada, 3rd in Quebec after Montreal and Quebec City. Hey, Laval has the metro. It's pretty cool. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention the main problem in my city. Every single line stops at the central station without exception. With 30,000 students in a 160,000 kilometer city, the bus to university is overcrowded. Need more buses, I guess, and bigger buses. Lips getting very dry. How do you feel about the New York City Triborough RX project being revived? I think it's a great project, and that's the circumferential project I'm referring to. A Canadian not into hockey. I know. I just watched all of the stations Vancouver video today. It's actually one of my favorites, despite not bothering to watch initially. I appreciate that. I appreciate that people went and watched that video. It was a lot of work, and it's maybe my favorite video I've made. Do you play video games? Very casually and very infrequently, but yeah, I like Super Smash Bros. That's a fun game. We have a PlayStation 5. We've got it by some miracle, and it's cool. The triggers on the PlayStation 5 are very interesting, actually. It enhances the gaming experience quite a bit. We've been playing some Call of Duty. It's been a long time since I've played Call of Duty, but it's fun. So, which is better, high-speed diesel or high-speed electric? Electric all the way. Does your proposal of single-level electrics for... It's not really my proposal. It's the Toronto Regional Board of Trade. But does it mean that the bi-levels are incompatible? No, because there's lots of bi-level trains that travel under catenary, right? So not at all. What would you like to see done with the historic New Orleans streetcar? Start improving it, upgrading it with new trams like what Toronto uses. Thoughts on funding transit through sales taxes? I think it's good. Use congestion taxes to fund transit, because the more congested you are, the more money you'll have for transit. That's one good way. I don't know about sales taxes. The buses between the central because if you've noted, a lot of those sales taxes got hit really hard when people stopped spending as much money in the U.S. And the nose is just, I don't know. And I think using congestion charges are better, and just having permanent funding, because people need transit no matter what, right? Can you start a Twitch where you play Train Sim World and Cities Skylines? I like those games, honestly, but not enough to stream them. For the Vancouver video, was always a case of, oh man, that looks long. I'll watch that when I have time, and the time took a while to come into my possession. Yeah. Do you know the Paris Metro had a grade crossing? I believe the Paris Metro has a... Oh, sorry, my neck is really sore. I'm acting very ADD on the stream today. The Paris Metro grade crossing, I believe, is just between a yard and the main line. It's not actually on the main line. Is the door locked, or what would you do if someone knocked or barged in? That's a strange question. I would turn in shock, I think. Hello, Reece. Since the Long Island Railroad is expanding, would an enhancement to Woodside on the Port Washington, Babylon, Long Beach, Port Jefferson, I can't pronounce it, Far Rockaway, and Oyster Bay branch lines... I'm not sure what the question is. What would it do good? I'm not sure what the... Yeah, I'm sorry. I think it would be valuable, but I'm not sure exactly your specific question. I do agree with the Justify thing, but however, they've tried some sort of BRT before, which was called Metrolink, and they also had Metro X, and the crowding issue didn't fix. Again, like, it's a pure numbers problem. You provide more capacity, and you should get less crowding unless there's a lot of latent demand. Which city do you live in? People are asking. New York City 7 train doesn't need any more enhancements. Should the LA subway extend east? I mentioned in my video... Did I mention in my video? I mentioned that it should go to the Arts District station, which is adjacent to the yard. But probably further east, because it can travel faster than a lot of the light rail. The Sao Paulo monorail, I believe it's only line 15. I don't think there's multiple, but it's an interesting system. It's quite high capacity. For New Orleans, do you think there should be a difference between their historic streetcars and a more modern system? It might be a protected landmark. Yeah, I think the only reason that those systems are protected landmarks is because they were thought to be obsolete, right? So put some modern trains on it, burn the old cars, put them in a museum, and get on with it. These are transportation systems, not museum showpieces. 2nd Avenue subway. That's the question. Reece, should Long Island Railroad get more renovated stations? Definitely. Yeah, it's a very useful commuter rail system. But without more reasonable fares, right, how can we expect more people to use it? Whew. Bottom of the chat. Nice. A big thing about that is induced demand. If you make it where more people can use it, the more people don't use it will start to, and you'll be back where you were. Possibly, yeah. Thoughts on the automated cable car technology like the Oakland BART line? It's a gadget bon, yeah. You can mix old and new streetcars. Not every vehicle on the line needs to be the same. Yeah, no, exactly. Though, I don't know. I don't love heritage streetcars. I'm sorry. But yeah, I mean, like Toronto operates them just on like the weekends. That's a cool in between. Yeah, cool. Bottom of the chat. I think I've discussed everything I need to discuss. I will give folks, since this has been a long stream and I have the time, what I will do is I will say, if you have a question, feel free to send it now, or forever hold your peace until the next stream. Yeah, I think that would be nice. We have a super chat, very interesting, from Akbar. Platform edge doors on the New York subway and the commercialization of mezzanine space would make life so much better. I agree. My nose is so itchy. I don't know. Maybe I have allergies or something. Platform edge doors should be possible at a lot of stations on the 7 and the L, which I believe are the only stations with communications-based train control at the moment. So yeah, I definitely agree that they should be added. Albeit, I don't know, New York City subway stations are in rough condition, so it might be hard to add them. But commercializing the mezzanine space, I definitely agree with, and making them like brighter, more comfortable spaces, I think would be quite the benefit. I like what San Francisco Muni does with the J. Mostly modern LRVs with an occasional historic rolling stock. Sure, that's an option. Have you heard of the Munich second S-Bahn tunnel? Of course. Yeah, it's very exciting stuff. Yeah, it's exciting. Though I almost think they should make it like quad track, because I feel like they could probably fill a quad track tunnel. How would that work in every part of the city, though? I'm not sure what that is meant to be referring to. Nice to have a stream that caters to the other side of the world. That was the intention. Again, I'm going to alternate between Sunday and Saturday streams, so Sunday can be for my European viewers, Saturday can be for my Australasian viewers, and every time works for North Americans. Plus, if you're really passionate, like some people seem to be, then you can get to them anyways. How do you get past legal disputes in transit? You call a lawyer and you draft better laws, I would say. With a 50-50 old-new vehicle split, you'll never have to wait more than one vehicle if you don't like the one that arrives. Good point. Do you think there's a greater potential role for VIA with greater frequency in Southern Ontario in the place of some super long GO services like Kitchener or Niagara? I actually am kind of the belief that it makes more sense to just extend GO but have more comfortable trains, because GO is the, think about it, VIA is a more limited operation, so they have less like potential to find efficiencies through operating a lot of trains than GO does. So we should try to get GO to operate as much as possible, right? What's that? Oh, I'm getting a request, an external request for a shout out to a Project End. I don't know, maybe they're viewing this, but shout out to Project End, quite the legend on Twitter. I'm going to continue. Because some mezzanines in some stations aren't always in commercial areas. I agree. Is it necessary to add platform screen doors to existing metro stations? It's not necessary, but it has a lot of benefits. Best transit system aesthetically. The London Underground is great. The MTR is cool. Sydney Metro is really nice. I have my problems with that system, but it is beautiful. The SkyTrain in Vancouver is really nice too. So I think if you're talking about signage, okay, so we're talking about signage and colors. I think colors, Sydney is really cool, but London is also cool. I like the red, blue, and white. Signage, Vancouver is actually really good. So is Sydney, so is London. Yeah. Do you think it's worth full height platform screen doors or half height? I think it's really a question of what about the specific application, right? Full height works usually like the point of full height is you can have full enclosure for air conditioning and stuff, right? But you can't really retrofit. So I think it's kind of it's an either or that really depends. I will say that I like Sydney's kind of 3/4 height gates. What do you think of Manila's metro? It is a unique system. It's quite interesting. I think I should talk about Manila and maybe Bangkok more in the future, and as well as Kuala Lumpur and other Southeast Asian cities. Jakarta has a cool MRT. What do you think of cafe trams? Would be cool to have them in Toronto. Thoughts about the Seoul Metropolitan Subway? Great system. I probably will make... I have a video coming up on a related topic, so stay tuned for that. I was talking about mezzanines in non-commercial areas. But if you're saying they're not like commercialized, I'm not sure what the original topic was about, but I think there should be stores everywhere. I hope the Halton County Railway Museum does take some T1s when they retire, although I'm not sure if they already have that planned or not. Yeah, I think that we should have a better museum, though, that's more central and transit accessible. That would be something I'd love to see. Why not more? One thing I think would be interesting, if we don't need the all of Greenwood Yard anymore, say we're doing the new Western Yard on line 2, and we don't need Greenwood anymore because we have a big Western Yard at Obico, then maybe we could make a really cool central transit museum at Greenwood that could use some of the TTC gauge track, could be converted for having the streetcars and trains roll around a bit, and it would be transit accessible via the subway. That could be a very cool option. So I'm just mentioning it. Did you see the STL plan I put in the chat? Yep. Very impressive. Yeah, and they don't use CBTC on the 7. Okay, they're two people talking to each other. What do you think of all-day frequent express buses that connect outlying areas to downtown? Hong Kong has a lot of these, and they're all double-deckers. No, that's a great sort of system, and that's sort of what I talked about in my highway bus videos. VIA needs to stop treating themselves like air travel, like weighing bags on a train. Yeah, I agree. How would mezzanine commercial areas work at NYC subway stations, at small stations? I mean, how wouldn't they work? You can just have little shops. Go Transit Toronto buses already do that. Yeah, they do. The 7 train uses CBTC 24/7. Yeah, of course. In most areas in New York City subway stations, there's a lot of commercial space. I wouldn't agree. There's lots of stations without tons of commercial space. Anyways, wow. This has been quite the marathon stream. It is 9:30. Oh my goodness. You folks have got me for an hour and a half of streaming. That's a lot more than usual. So I think I'm going to have to shut it down now. I won't shut it down instantly, but I'm winding the stream down. Thoughts on the Berlin U5 extension that recently opened? I may have to make a video on it, but the Brandenburg Gate now has a U-Bahn connection, so that's cool. I believe that's the extension being referred to, right? Yeah, there was a 2-hour stream. That's true. So since we are towards the end of the stream, I just want to say, go look at the link in the description below for the next stream. Set a reminder so you can come join. Prep your questions if you have them. Join the Discord so we can chat about various stuff. Yeah, exactly. Every time someone asks about a Philly video, I put it off another week. That's funny. I did make a video about Philly not that long ago. It's very, like, you have to imagine, when I can only make I can only make like 4 videos a week. I made 26 videos in March. 26 videos. That's a video almost every single day. Which is wild, right? So I'm pretty constrained in terms of the number of videos I can make, and there's so many videos I want to make, but it's just hard, right? Like there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about related to transit. I have a backlog of like hundreds of videos I want to make. So like, don't take it if I don't talk about your city as I don't think it's important or anything like that. I have a lot of videos to make, and if there's Toronto news, I live in Toronto, so I got to talk about that first, right? And that's also where a lot of my viewership is. But I do try to bring in elements of other systems in all of my videos. You know, when I talk about regional rail, I frequently mention Australia. When I talk about Trams, I frequently talk about European tram networks. And so I don't know. I recommend you watch every video. I think you can probably learn something from every video, but I am biased because I make the videos. Great job. Good night. Great night. Great night. Great job. Okay, that was why I was confused. Good night, I think you mean to say. Thank you for watching. Why do some people think that high floor LRT is better than low floor LRT? Well, because it is better than low floor LRT. High floor is more like a subway train. It's easier to maintain. It's less awkward inside. You've got a flat floor. So I think that's all great. Any thoughts on subway surface trolley light rail lines? Right, those are essentially just Stadtbahns, like the European Stadtbahns, you see in various German-speaking cities typically, and pre-metros. There's going to be a video that talks about this shortly. Patrons, you'll see it in the next week. I think North American rail systems should move towards alphanumeric line designations. As Toronto, Seattle, Los Angeles have done, do you agree? Yeah, I agree. And I think that letters should be regional or trams or something, and numbers should be subway lines. Though actually, I think Sydney may have the best system where they prepend a letter that represents the mode. I think that's a pretty smart approach. I find the London Underground fascinating since it stretches so far out into semi-rural areas and shares the same corridors and tracks as mainline rail. I can't decide if that's good or not. It is interesting. I don't think it's clear whether it is good or not at all, but it is very interesting. Melbourne versus Toronto trams video. Yep, I'm doing it. It is coming out in the near future. I'm working on it right now. Some great folks from Melbourne have been helping me with it, and yeah, I'm happy to say that it is moving along nicely. So yeah, that's good news, of course. I should say, if you have a cool transit card, please send it to me. I will open it on the next stream. Yeah, join the Discord, folks. It's great to chat with people on there. It's the best way to get in touch with me. There's going to be lots of good videos this month. I guess we're just starting it, but lots of good stuff, and the channel is continuing to grow. So yeah, I'm excited. I'll just finish off these messages, and then I'm going to shut the stream down. I think they should do something with the abandoned tracks on Vancouver Island. I agree. Melbourne's tram network is 3 times larger. It's larger. I think it's 3 times. It's like 2 times. Thoughts on regional rail should return to Grand Central? Yes. Okay, thanks everyone for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.